of my ancestors out there, welcome back to Actors and Ancestors. I'm very excited to be here because I actually have gone back and have a friend on the show. The last two people I had, I didn't know at all. a very good friend of mine in the biz when I was just a fledgling, starting out really in film with a big break in a movie called Beans. You will recognize her, my good friend Rainbow Dickerson, who I just think the world of, who's been nothing but a pleasure to see, work with, see successes and everything like that, and who is a big supporter of mine too. I much appreciate you. Much love to you, Rainbow. Thank you for being here. What I would ask you to do is, please, can you introduce yourself and your land and which people claim you?
Awesome. Hello. I'm very excited to be here. Yes. Okay. So I am Rainbow. I am a descendant of the Rappahannock tribe, which is from Virginia on the east coast of the United States. And I am also a descendant of the Thai people. So my mother comes from Thailand, outside of Bangkok. So, and of course, I call myself the daughter of colonization and immigration. So my dad is also mixed, but we don't know with what. So Virginia was a very complicated place. We'll just say that.
Yeah, that entire area. And you know what's funny is that when I met you and you told me your tribe, and can you say it again for me too? Because I've never got it. I feel really bad because it was a tribe that I'd actually, to my full admission, I'd never actually heard of.
Yeah, well, a lot of the Virginia tribes people haven't heard of. And we just got, 7 tribes just got federal recognition in 2018. Mm-hmm. So it's no wonder people haven't heard. But so my tribe is Rappahannock, which is named after one of the rivers that flows through Virginia.
That's beautiful. Rappahannock. Yeah. And I wonder why so many people didn't hear of so many of the tribes. So did something happen back in the day that would have wiped out?
Well, we were one of the first stops. What can I say? I mean,
yeah. That's...
You know, it's funny. I actually met, I was doing a workshop of a play the other week, and I met a young lady who is of African-American and some sort of European descent. And she has the last name Dickerson as well, which I always knew, like, our family adopted that name as well. But so we were actually joking, like, oh, well, maybe your ancestors and my ancestors were owned by like the same person. Like maybe we were literally owned,
yeah,
by the same family. So we're like, oh, we should dig through this. What's up, cuz? How you doing?
You could be on that show one day where they do those digs into like people's backgrounds and ancestry that we get celebrities on and things. I'm talking to you, audience. My friend Rainbow called herself a shithead who has never listened to my show. Thank you very much, Rainbow. I appreciate that for your honesty. But basically the aim of this show, I'm just trying to be a small part, the way that our community kind of uplifts and showcases a lot of our talent and talks about the journeys. I'm trying to show the journeys of artists and actors to just show everyone how different this world is, how accessible and how much of a challenge it is. Because in this industry, I guess people on the outside thinking of getting in or that are in it and fighting, I mean, success, it's different. It's different for everybody, right? I mean, for some people, the only success is being an A-list superstar. And if you're not a Ryan Reynolds or whatever it is, then you're not successful in this industry. But I'm just hoping that we're able to show the different paths that many of us take and the struggles that we have to fight through and how success can be fleeting and then come back and go away. Like it's, this is it. So I really appreciate your vulnerability coming on here, because if I can be vulnerable for a moment, I remember when I met you, we did that movie Beans, which I've talked about a bunch in this show, but I mean, it was my first big role in film.
Mine too, on film. Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't know that. I just met you and I was like, oh, look at this professional lady. Oh, she's so talented. She's beautiful. She's smart. She's funny. She's generous. She's got all of the the elements that make a successful actor. I'm so intimidated, and we did our stuff. I mean, it turned out I did just fine anyway, despite my intimidation.
Mhm.
I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. And you as a person turned out to be so incredibly kind and generous. And I got to meet this lovely human who took me on a road trip in Quebec where we were filming. Got to have a lot of fun. You have such an interesting personality, and I'm just wondering if you could tell us where this comes from. We're gonna get to that, but first, I just need to know, like, what was it like growing up where you did, being who you are? So this is where our journey starts.
Okay, sounds good. Um, First of all, I called myself an honest shithead just so that we're clear, because I
Okay.
could have lied and said that I've listened, but I am going to now. Okay, I know we'll circle back to a lot of stuff, but so to answer your question, what was it like growing up, me and where I was growing up? So we moved around a lot. Um, I was an only child between my mother and my dad. My dad has a very mysterious past. Um, he was either married, I'm not sure if they were married or not, but he had a partner before my mom, and they had 4 kids. I've never met them. 2 of them, I believe now are passed. So when I came around, my parents had this bee in their bonnet that they just would move around a lot. My dad had left the Air Force, and I don't know, maybe traveling was, like, in his bones by then. But so I grew up all over the East Coast. I grew up in California. I grew up in Hawaii. Uh, Mom would take me back home to Thailand for a couple months at a time. So I was kinda all over Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, DC, um, all over.
You can do all
I
the
think
accents.
I wish it were so. Um, so that it was interesting, and honestly, I remember having to move schools so much. I think for the most part, I kind of found it exciting to move around all the time. I look back now and I realize I think some of the things that my dad turned into games, like we'd be coming home from school or something and we'd play hide and seek behind a bunch of parked cars. But I'm realizing now it's because there was like a bill collector, there was someone at our front door that he was like hiding from. I'm telling you, we have an interesting my dad's the
Mhm.
character. Maybe we'll talk about him more, but so I kind of had a fun childhood, a loving childhood. I saw a lot of different stuff, but I do remember my memory is honestly a kind of for shit if you ask me to remember anything earlier than like 8th grade. But I remember going it's true. I remember going to 8th grade in West Virginia, starting in the middle of the school year. And I remember when the teacher had me in the front of the class and introduced me, and she was like, "We need a volunteer to take Rainbow around the school and show her around." And nobody wanted to be my friend. Like nobody volunteered to like come and show me around.
Oh
And
man.
I think it was because maybe I looked a little different than the other kids, in West Virginia, in that part of West Virginia. Because I also remember at one point someone saying, "Oh, you people are really nice." And I couldn't quite understand, like, what do you mean by you people? And I just think
Yeah.
they meant different.
Hmm.
So, I think, I'm grateful for my upbringing. I think it's what fuels me to try to find home and what home means to me, and my desire to, like, buy a home and put roots down again somewhere. Like, I think this sort of nomadic existence my whole life is what has led me to this sort of search and understanding for what home is.
Uh,
And, I had an elder tell me once too. She was like, "Well, it's no wonder that you have this theme in your life about where is home," because she's like, you know, your mother is an immigrant, and so you don't have that sense of belonging in Thailand, and then
mhm.
your family here in the what we know as the US was removed from their home. Your dad was removed from home, so you don't have that sense of home, and then you grew up moving around. So she's like, "Duh." And it was eye-opening for me. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
no
Well,
wonder.
well, we're a nomadic people for the most part. A lot of our tribes. So good. You're staying connected that way. We just got to move around. I always kind of felt that way too. That identity, that being mixed and everything, and never really feeling
Mm.
settled.
Mm.
And now it's thankfully through the resurgence of culture connectivity that I'm feeling a lot more proud and knowing where I'm from. But it's also like a matter of letting go of some of that other stuff. Like I'm not connected really to my white ancestry.
Mm.
I don't even really know what that part is, but it doesn't bother me at all. Whereas when I was a kid, it was just like, oh, this is what I should be shooting for.
Mm.
But now it's nice to feel a little bit more settled, and I guess that's the beauty of chasing art. So I'm,
Mm.
I'm curious, like, what was it that just made you or pushed you to pursue that path of being an artist in life here?
Well, it's funny because I don't think I would have even thought about it before 8th grade. Maybe I didn't think about it because I don't remember before 8th grade. Um, but I wanted to work with horses, like, when I was a kid. Like, I wanted to, like, work on a farm, I wanted to be a racehorse jockey, I wanted to train horses, like, that's what
Hmm.
I wanted to do. Um, but then, you know, when I got to high school, um, well, 8th grade, I found, show choir, and then in 9th grade, our high school here, I found the theater department, and I remember walking in to this beautiful high school theater auditorium and feeling like, just walking into the theater, I felt like I had found home, like, whatever that meant, it just felt, like, inspiring and like a warm hug and this magical place, and I had no idea what it was, but it just felt open and vast and, like, it was like, "Oh, what is this place?" So I found theater in high school, and um that's what started it all. And then I did community theater. I started doing as many things as I could. I applied to take extra classes in high school because I wanted more art classes.
Hmm.
Um, so that's really what triggered it. But I also realized too, like, my whole life, I liked doing things with my hands too, or I just liked creating things. And that's become such a huge part of my personality too, is like I have to make something visual as well, like, I'm constantly, like, folding little pieces of paper or, like, doodling on something, or I'll take my food and I'll take a candy bar and I'll, like, shape it into, like, some flower or something, and then I'll eat it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, I
some
think I think
weird
we've
tick.
we've run a lot of parallels, and like I did the same thing. It was coming out of my shell in the final grade of high school, and community theater. I can't recommend that enough to anyone. I mean, gosh, it's such a great way to cut your teeth, and you learn the hardships. It is the grungiest part of theater that you can do, and you're just making do with what you have. You got tissue paper for a costume, good enough. Like
Mhm.
that's that's all it's going to be, and you can't get better training than that, really.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, but also there's also those folks that there's this weird culty aspect sometimes. And everyone knows it. Everyone knows somebody or some theater group that's just, I don't know, they get really big for their britches and they kind of forget that people are volunteering their time to make this
Yeah.
art together, collaborative, beautiful thing. It should be fun. If it's not fun and the place is being run like a cult, run, listeners, get out of there.
I concur. If anything is not fun, why do it? Stop.
Yes, exactly. Now, I know that you mentioned that you want to be a show jumper, a race car driver, and you've said that if you weren't an actor, yeah, you'd be one of those, or a farmer, or a
Mhm.
noetic scientist, right?
Mhm.
That correct? So
Mhm.
these are two very different character traits that you have. This speed, this need for speed
I
and
do.
connectivity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if you could kind of just go over how that uh, relates into the acting world. Is that how you found your home in a way? Like this is a nice balance.
Ugh. I Does it does it relate to the act? I don't know. I think maybe I
I don't know. You
haven't,
tell me.
I don't know. I think maybe I'm still discovering that. I think there's I'm realizing this too. There is an element, there's a balance of being in control as well as being out of control in both the idea of working with animals, right?
Hmm.
And also like racing cars. You know, like you are in control to a certain extent, but then anything can happen at any point. So maybe that is also kind of why I like the arts and I like theater, you know, and I like acting because it gives me some sense of control. Like I am making something that is of my own voice, that I have control to an extent over how I use my instrument, the projects I choose to do, you know, where I lend my skill and my voice. But then on the other hand, I mean, you know, just getting to the point of booking a job is completely out of your control. And then the product that ends up on screen, actually at the end of the day, is somewhat out of your control, right? Like you don't
Hmm.
really have a say on which shot got selected or um, you know, what hit the cutting room floor and what stayed and what didn't. And
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Sometimes your
Maybe that's
best work is it
is
doesn't get in there.
nobody ever sees.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody ever sees. So uh you know, maybe that's why I have the love-hate relationship with the with this
as
industry and the art.
as we all do. Um, and you're right. It is being part of a collaborative piece of art. I mean, there's so much power, and you have to have someone that's good at directing, someone that's good at editing,
Mhm.
especially, because yeah, they can also save you if you've had if you had a bad day. I mean, they could put together something that might work out. Or people will be like, "Oh, what is this? What are they doing in this scene?" No, I just ate some bad shellfish and I was not.
I couldn't get close to her. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Oh, but it looked so
It
amazing.
looked,
Like, what was
yeah.
that
Oh my
dynamic?
God, the levels. Yeah, people. It's subjective, right? It is an art form.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I uh I was gonna say I'm realizing I think I can solidly call you my my on-camera husband because I think every time we've worked together, right? I mean we've done a TV show together and a feature film together,
Hmm.
and both times. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we have one of the same kids too each time. There's a theme here.
I know, I know. It is wild, which is why I'm just so happy that you're here. In fact, you know what? On this day, because this is the day after American Thanksgiving, and I don't need to tell all of the Nietzsche folks out there, all the natives and listening, our complicated feelings toward that, obviously. But even a reminder for us to look at what's going on in our lives and being thankful. It's nice to have, and you are a person that I'm very thankful for coming across in paths. I was so incredibly happy to see you at that Netflix party, and
I
you looked
know.
amazing. Your beautiful outfit
You
that you
too.
had. Oh, it's so much fun. And it is just this reconnection of worlds. My dear wife, our little family unit, was together again with our daughter, who's again back at it, filming, doing their thing.
I
Um,
know.
it
I
is it
know.
is it is so strange, but also thank you again for uh, your vulnerability, because also I remember we had a discussion when I was down in LA just on how wild this industry can seem sometimes, because suddenly people have launch pads and it
Mm.
feels like a struggle, but it's just kind of part of the game and it's what to expect. I mean, you can't get into acting without the
Mhm.
love for it, I think. um, and I'm just wondering about your thoughts on the fact that I remember you were like, "Oh gosh, it's so good to see you on True Detective" at this point, because that was right after
Yeah.
Netflix's thing, and how other people that you've worked with have gone on, and how do you keep
Mm.
yourself motivated, or does it even affect you? Is this just what you signed up for?
You know, those are really good, deep questions that I feel like I wrestle with in a different way all the time. So I feel like this ties into one of your comments a couple minutes ago about success. And I have realized over time that it's very important to come up with your own definition of success.
Hmm.
Um, because if you're always using somebody else's measurements or parameters, you're just chasing a moving target all the time. So coming up with what that means for you, what is success to you? And I think it's important. And I'm also realizing I think it changes over time. I think as you go through life, what is important to you and what is enough, which to me is also a definition of success, like what is enough, um, might change. So, very much struggle with self doubt. I very much struggle with a lack of confidence sometimes. I also struggle, I will fully admit, when I'm not my best self, I very much struggle with envy or jealousy. I think there's nothing wrong with any of those emotions, and it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. And, there's lessons I think to be gained from all of them. But so I remember feeling, it was so nice to kind of see you at this party because I felt like here's a friend that that we made this beautiful thing together. And then, we parted ways as you often do in this world, right? You build this tight
Hmm.
knit family bond over a couple weeks or a couple of months or whatever the case is. And then you all disperse to your respective areas. And it just, I think it's a tribute to who you are as a person too. You just felt like a safe friend space, that I could just fall into a hug and have some comfort. Because I do find this business can be it can feel solitary at times. It can feel daunting, and you just need a hug. But I remember thinking, looking at all of the folks in beans, especially the young ones, Galandio and DeFaro and Paulina, and
Hmm.
watching them go on to lead their own television series, all of them, just booming. And our wonderful director, Tracy Deer, I mean, she also, her career, I feel like, just started to flourish, and she's directing like these other huge mainstream television shows all over, including
Hmm.
here in the US and for is Out no, Outlander's not Netflix. I'm sorry, Outlander. Prime? There's too many platforms. But, and so she was booming, and then seeing you, go off and lead in this HBO series, it was like it was it was amazing, and then I suddenly felt like, "Oh, rainbows, that's a clear sign, like, are you meant to do this? Like, you literally everyone has left you behind. There must be something wrong with you. You must not be good enough to do this. Like, everybody else
Mm.
is off and going, It's gotta be you."
I'm going to
And if I'm
interrupt, of course,
honest,
and say that's not true. No,
oh,
there's
well,
no way. But I understand. Continue. Yes.
yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, I'm still, I think that little peanut gallery boy still pops up. So I still struggle with it, and I
Mhm.
actually I don't know if that ever goes away, Perhaps no matter if we fast forward, Joel, 30 years from now and we have X number of other projects under our belt, I have a feeling there's still gonna be at times that little peanut gallery voice that pops up and be like, "Not good
Yeah.
enough, still suck," you know?
I think we share the same voice because yeah, you're right. It doesn't
Is that
go.
what yours sounds like too?
It does. It honestly does. I go through these like I've been lucky and I've gotten a couple of projects that are,
Mhm.
how post goes. They sit on shelves for a long time. And but in the interim, there's just that voice screaming at you. You're not good enough. You're not, you should be in fact, right now, why aren't you doing a
Mhm.
theater show or something like that? Because
Yeah.
you need to be available. There's these choices that you make in this industry,
Hmm.
and it's really tricky because I love theater. That's where my heart is. I love the floorboards. I
Me too.
love the feel of the audience, and that is something that people don't get to see, obviously, unless you're there in the audience that night. But it is something else to be involved in something that millions and millions of people have seen, and that's going to stand the test of time because you can just throw it up on
Mm-hmm.
TV whenever you want to
Mm-hmm.
see those cool
Yep.
performances. But that voice, it doesn't leave you alone. That feeling of self-worth, and yeah, it is a struggle because I think you're one of those people, like I was saying, I was listing off all those traits. You have what it takes to be a successful actor, but there's just so much luck that's involved. And I think a lot of people getting into the industry don't realize that. I mean, you meet a lot of young folks, especially jumping in, and they're just kind of naive about it. And they're like, in 4 years, I'll be winning awards and this and and it's like, you were really good at small town community theater thing. And it's nice, good for you. You got Annie, uh, but it's a rough world. This is a
Yeah.
tough industry. Um,
Yeah.
so that tenacity, that fact that you are a stunt woman and a horse rider, and you're used to the roughness. So I think that serves you well, but it doesn't stop hurting.
Here's the thing though, Joel. Like I sometimes I struggle with I don't ever want to pretend like my path and my lived experience is the blueprint for anybody else's like path or lived experience. So there's this dichotomy always within me of like, I like for instance, someone young and entering into the industry, not that we're not young, we're still young, Joel. But someone young and entering into the industry, I want to be like, you might hit some ups and downs. It might not be smooth sailing. Be prepared. You're gonna be fine, but it can be hard. You know, and then at the same time, I'm like, why would I say that? Why why would I like gear them up to prepare for like the rough time? Shouldn't I be saying yes, it can be potentially super easy for you. And I hope that you just fly and you never hit a bump or crash into a wall. And it's entirely possible. Like, yes, go. May there never be, a setback or a
Mhm.
tear on your face. Like,
Because
yes,
because that does happen too. Yeah, you're
it
right.
does
To
happen
to be
too.
fair, there are people that just lift off and they're gone.
Yes. Yes, it's
Hmm.
it's true. Like I think if you look out into the world, you can find evidence for any point of view that you have on absolutely any subject. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. There- there- there's always those rare lottery winners. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And if you're in the game, I mean, it's important to also, and you're coming up against these lack of opportunities. Your lottery ticket isn't getting chosen. Um, and you're in a position to, it's always important to even create your own work or work with other people that create, and you're in that group. Community is very important, which is what I really appreciate about the Indigenous community. We all seem to know each other, um, in some ways, and the fact that, like, even last episode, I mean, let's be honest, this is a very small podcast for a very small group of listeners out there, but I think it is important. And guys like Dallas and Wes Studi just jumping in nonetheless,
yep,
like they were like, absolutely,
love
I
it,
want to help our people.
love
And
it.
if just another platform to get those voices out there. But if you can create your own work, even if it's for a small group of people, it is important. It is important stuff. Are you little segue? Are you in production of anything? Are you creating anything at the moment?
Yeah, well done. Way to loop that in. Way to tie that together, bridge that gap. All those analogies. Yes. Funny you should say. I've had people say my whole career, make your own work, do your own thing. Don't wait for anybody. Tell your own stories. And To be honest, most of the time I've been like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, how? What do you mean?" Or, "That sounds exhausting. Like, I don't what do you mean?"
Hmm.
And it wasn't until last year, honestly. Yes, of course, in little ways, like I was talking about, I've always been creative, like, my whole life, and yes, I'll make projects in terms of, like, arts and crafts projects. You know what I mean? Like, I'll sew this thing or I'll build that or I'll, paint this thing, whatever. But a as far as, you know, film, TV, theater, it really wasn't until last year that there was a storyline that spoke to me enough that sort of lit me up in a way where I was like, "Okay, I wanna turn this short play," is how it started, into a short film. My friend who wrote it, we talked about it and we're like, "Yeah, we think this really could work on film." I never produced, a short film before. This really would be my first time building something from the ground up and getting it made, and it was the very first time that I realized the roadblock I had all these years to, like, creating my own work was I had just never found a story or a concept that spoke to me strong enough where I felt like I was ready, willing, and able to go 150% on it. Because I just knew if I was gonna make something, I was gonna go 150%, like, um, and so somehow it's just the right story. But I tell you, once we did that short film, the cork is popped now.
The cork is
Like,
popped. And speaking
cork is popped.
speaking of that short, what is that short film called?
Aw. So it is called
Yeah.
The River,
Okay.
and it takes place on the Gila River Indian Community Reservation in Arizona, and it follows sort of the story of 3 generations of women who have problem gambling affect their lives and how it
Hmm.
affects kind of each of them. And, yeah, we just Claude Jackson Jr. is the writer. Like I said, it started as a short play. He is the public defender of, his tribe, and, uh, funding or resources from the gambling industry on their res helped fund his education and his law degree. So he has immense gratitude for it. And at the same time, he's seen a lot of cases come across his desk that have to do with people who are struggling because of gambling and because of the side effects of it. So for him, the story was important, to kind of tell a balanced story
Hmm.
and to bring some humanity to what addiction means and people who struggle with it. And then for me, that was kind of the same. Like it's it's things that I remember about my own dad because that was what my dad struggled with. We didn't diagnose it. We didn't know what it was called, but I think that was part of why we were always running from people and hiding from people. I think we probably owed money all the time and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, full circle back to dad.
Circling
You know,
back to dad, Papa
yeah,
Bear.
it's funny. I mean, I look back and I love my Mushum, that is my grandfather in Cree, for
Hmm.
those listeners that don't know Cree. Um, and he did have some issues. I mean, every family does. I just remember one time, like he blew his entire check over at the bingo. Like it's just and he's like, "What's wrong with a man spending his money at what he likes?" And we're like,
I can
"But we kind of count on that," Like, yeah, it was. It was just one of those things you realize, or you don't realize is strange when you're a kid. And then you get older and you're
correct.
like, oh man, yeah, we did do some
Yeah.
funny things to make ends meet,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just picturing little Rainbow ducking behind cars. Hee. That man over
Yep.
there, he
Yep.
can't see us.
I there were some scary moments too, like, I remember a time because my folks when we lived in West Virginia, my folks would commute to Washington, DC for work. My mom worked at a
Uh-huh.
grocery store, and my dad, had a variety of random jobs, but so it required them, though, to travel. They were in the car about 4 hours every day, a 2-hour commute each way, and I remember Oh, how old are you when you're like in ninth grade, eighth and ninth grade?
Like
What is that
14.
like? 14? Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember just, because I was home alone all the time and it was late when my folks got home. I remember like we moved into this new house and there was like a car that that I could see just like parked, with their lights on at night. Like at the end of the drive, like on the public road. And I didn't think anything of it. And then like, a couple nights go by and I'm sitting on the sofa. I don't remember what I was doing, but I remember sitting on the sofa and like there was a person with a flashlight that was walking around the house, like shining a light into
Oh,
like the house.
scary. Yeah.
Scary, right? And
Yeah.
then so I did. I was scared. I don't remember what I did. I feel like I might have called my parents. But then I remember like another night, it was the same car in the same spot in the road, and I was starting to put like two and two together. Like, I bet you this is the same person. I bet clearly they're like up to no good. And I remember, my little 14-year-old self or whatever. I was like, fuck this noise. So I opened the front door and I had the corded phone, it was like a giant phone with like the long cord.
They
like
were
in the
heavy. For
kitchen.
those of you before cell phones,
They were
yeah,
heavy.
you could knock someone with one of those. Yeah.
They were ridiculous. So I had the corded phone and I opened the door and I had like a baseball bat and I just stood there like, yeah, come on, you little. But so there were fun moments of like hiding behind cars, and then there were like some scary moments of like somebody's here to like do harm.
Yeah.
Um,
And it all,
I digress.
yeah. The tapestry that is rainbow. It's a beautiful rainbow tapestry. That's what I should have said. Oh, that would have been so much smoother if I would have said that. It's a beautiful rainbow tapestry. You know what? I'm just gonna leave my mess up in. I'm not gonna edit that out. That'll be.
This makes me think of a question for you, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Fire away.
So here we are talking about like life experiences, right?
Mhm.
Basically, I just told a story about a life experience. And I was about to say, this is what we draw on as artists, as actors. We draw on our life, we draw on our life experience. But I was just having a conversation yesterday with another friend saying, is it healthy to use your own personal, let's be specific, traumas? Is it healthy to use your own specific personal traumas in your work? Do you think it is? And do you think art is therapy?
I mean, see, here's the thing. I think our ammo box is stuffed with all of our experiences in life, and that is for us to use. Absolutely, you can draw on that, connect with that. Theater is therapeutic for sure. Art is very therapeutic, but it shouldn't be confused with therapy. I don't think it's the way that we get better and take care of ourselves. We still have to take care of ourselves, absolutely. In fact, theater, as much as it can be therapeutic and releasing and letting some of that stuff out, let's face it, it can be quite brutal too, and it can add to it as well. I mean, you're going to learn those lessons, anyone out there doing this type of work, just how much you can bear, how much you can put up with. Recently, I was offered some work, and the people involved, I knew I don't mesh with. And it's not that like I had the time for it and it would have been lovely, but you just know how much you can take through these experiences. And so I say no, and it kills me too, because I want to be busy. And that's how I feel like I'm valued and everything as well. So it was like a lose-lose situation, but at least I realized like, no, this is not going to help me as much as it's going to hurt me. So you just kind of move on from there. So I hope that answers your question.
I think that did. That did.
Yeah?
And I think it did. Good job. Good job.
Thank
host.
you. Thank you so much. I always like hearing this, and it's a question everyone sort of gets, I think, because you being Asian indigenous, I think there's a big population of I guess when people say mixed indigenous, there's
Mhm.
automatically in a lot of people's heads a picture that pops up. Maybe somewhat like me, but with white ancestry is just the default because there's so many white people, obviously. Um, that's just sort of how it goes. Then there's Afro-Indigenous, which actually has a pretty good representation. They're getting more and more recognized. There's actually entire tribes that are Afro-Indigenous, a very heavy
Yeah.
population going back to slavery and the mixed and
Yep.
allyship. Asian Indigenous is still somewhat underrepresented. I mean, a lot even weirdly enough, weirdly enough, I shouldn't say weirdly enough. That's mean for Keanu Reeves. I mean, but he's everything too. He's got
Mm.
what did he say? Irish and Scottish and Hawaiian,
Oh, I didn't
Chinese.
know
I
that.
think.
I didn't know
Yeah.
this
Oh, yeah.
about him.
He's a whole bunch of things.
Okay.
But equaling good person. I think I like the
Yeah.
vibe of Keanu. I haven't met him, but he seems like a good vibe.
Same, but I agree.
Same. But my question for you is: being Asian Indigenous, when was the first time you saw yourself sort of represented in art, in film, in TV, and theater?
I'm so glad you're asking this question.
Oh.
So glad. Um, I'm gonna go deep on this question, but the
Mm-hmm.
quick answer to start with, when was the first time I saw myself as Asian Indigenous represented on screen? Never? I don't have I yet? I don't know if I have. But Roman Zaragoza, who's a friend of mine, um, I think he's several things as well, but he is Asian Indigenous. And I think he's like the first one that I met in my life, like in my personal life that had like a similar story to me. I don't see it. I don't really see it very often. And to be honest, like we're starting to see more, slightly more indigenous representation in various ways in the industry. Um, which is a good thing now, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll get back to that. Um, we are seeing Asian American representation, but it's still we're in this age of like specificity, so I can see things are shifting and like we're really trying to hyper focus into like Korean,
Mm-hmm.
and what that culture is like, or Japanese and what that culture is like, or Chinese, or Filipino. I still don't really see anything that's Thai. There's like nothing. I don't think I can think of a single show that's got like a specifically Thai character in it.
and then
Um,
and then you'd be looking at Thai and Indigenous, and
yeah. And
you're it.
it
I might that might be
yeah,
that might
that
be
it
you.
doesn't yeah, and that's been, my managers who are wonderful women, Kay Lieberman and Lenore Zerman here in Los Angeles. They've had so many conversations, with casting directors and people in the industry saying, "Well, but if we keep casting to type, exactly to type, like, an actor can only play what their lived
Yeah,
experience is," they're like, "Well, then when is someone gonna write a Thai Rappahannock character? Because 'Cause you're saying that that's all that she can play, and if that's not out there and that doesn't exist." Um, once I have read for one Thai character ever in my career, and it was actually recently, just a couple of months ago. Eh,
oh
correction, I
wow.
didn't even get to read for it because they just said it was a Thai character, but you needed to speak fluent Thai, and I don't. Um,
Ah.
and that was another, like, heartbreak crush. I don't have language of any kind from either of my parents. I do not speak any dialect of Algonquin. They're trying to revitalize the dialect that the Rappahannock speak. I met, like, a lovely woman at this last film festival who's in charge of revitalizing the language. But, I don't speak any form of Algonquin. I don't speak Thai. So that stuff like that comes up all the time that, like, breaks my little heart when we're talking about, like, identity and ancestry. I think that I am in the minority, but obviously. Um, I think I am in the minority in my viewpoint of feeling like we keep narrowing the definition of what representation means.
Mm.
And I think I'm worried for us.
Ah.
because I think we're shrinking our imagination because we
Mhm.
are our definition of representation, I think, especially for us as actors, it really just boils down to what do they look like? And when we talk about how to expand representation in
Mhm.
the world, it's not just about appearance. It's about your language, your viewpoint in the world, how you walk through the world. It encompasses like the whole human being and not just what somebody looks like. But when we talk about representation as actors and in the entertainment
Mhm.
industry, it's usually some about like getting writers in the writers room and other creatives, but that conversation is very new. It has been just the last couple of years about
Mhm.
seeing the appropriate face shape or color or person on screen. So, I think representation is broader than what we make it, and I
Mhm.
think I, in my life, have been able to watch any show, any program, and find a point of connectivity to the characters in it. And I attribute some of that to my parents and the way that they brought me up. Um, but for me, I think that is the direction that I would like to see us go. I wanna be able to say that I don't have to see a Thai Rappahannock person on screen to feel like I'm being understood or to find a connection. I want to find the connections through humanity regardless of where you come from, what you look like, what your, demographic is, what your economic status is. I want to teach people to find themselves in everyone. I think that's what bridges a gap instead of having to say, "Oh, I didn't see the person that looks exactly like me, thinks exactly like me, acts exactly like me, therefore I'm represented on screen." I want to teach people to find themselves and to find the connectivity in everyone because we all are connected. We all are the same.
Yeah, we're all people, and it's our job as artists to, I guess, help others feel empathy for a lot of stories through what we do, and sort of build those connections. Absolutely, I for one am you know what, like I'm okay with going for an indigenous part and playing whoever. If the director favors more of a specific part going to that person for this character,
Mm,
then I'm okay with that too. I'm absolutely.
mhm.
But also, it is an art, and there is a point where the better performer will win. But also, I'm not up for like watching a story about the black experience and seeing a white guy do the part or something like that. like that.
I
I
hear
don't care
you.
how.
I hear
I
you.
don't care if you're Daniel Day Lewis. I don't want. You're not.
Yeah, I
You're
hear
not
you.
going to do that part.
Mhm,
But I see what you're
mhm,
saying. Yeah, hyper specific can get a bit. It's tricky. It's tricky. Like they recently did a show about the Canadian Arctic on CB.
mhm.
It'll be coming out. My friend Anna Lamb is in it, and they weren't able to cast completely enough. You know, they got people from around the country of different groups, and that's okay. They got there's sometimes you have to go with who's able to perform, and because it is
Yeah.
this still is a business. Acting isn't easy.
Yeah, it's not, and it concerns me, the concept of street casting, and I keep hearing more and more as I travel around, different film festivals and meeting people and up and coming directors and whatnot. I keep hearing a lot of directors saying how much they've really enjoyed working with, like, non-actors and how they might never, go back to traditional casting and hiring actors anymore, that they really like to have
Oh,
non-actors and street casting, and
interesting. Okay.
there's a whole sort of casting bracket now where agents specialize in, like, street casting and stuff, you know, putting influencers in roles and other sort of pop culture icon, as actors and teaching them to act. Like, basically
Mhm.
people saying it's easier to just teach someone to act, and you'll get a better performance than hiring, like, a trained actor. kind of.
You've been trained. I'm like a street kid. I only learned through doing, but you have actually had training as well, right? You've done a lot of Shakespeare, and which I find so incredibly difficult. I've done some, but it is very difficult for me to work my way through that text. But it is enjoyable. But
Yeah.
you've had your training as well. Where did you train?
Yeah, I have. But, I mean, like you, I would count, like, I count back in high school doing community theater as like
Hmm.
part of my training. You are, to
Absolutely.
me, you are a trained actor now because you've learned by doing, which I agree. To me, that's the most valuable form of learning that I've experienced. Learn by doing, learn on the job. But yeah, I did when I graduated, high school, I didn't decide to go to college right away. I just went out and worked for a year. And then after that, I decided I wanted to go to a theater school, specifically like a conservatory. So I went to London and I studied there for a year. And then I decided I would leave there. And I went to New York and I finished my education at a theater conservatory in New York City. So, yeah, so I do have training, and then I do have just years of working, in the theater and just doing the work, and I'm constantly still learning and evolving, but, it's not just because I'm, like, feeling bitter or something, like, I do think I can see the value in pulling someone off of the street and giving somebody that's never had the opportunity to perform a chance to perform, and I can see when it works, and I think it is magic, and some people can really capture, magic on specifically on screen, like, on
It
camera
does,
with
yeah.
that,
And
but
that's also the thing too, is that that does happen. It's not
it
like
does happen.
being a doctor, so you just pull someone off the street and like, hey, cut this guy open and change
Correct.
out his heart, and they're gonna,
Correct.
wow, what a natural. It is an art form where it is subjective, and sometimes there's these people that,
Yeah.
wow, they get it. And but
Yeah.
let's also be fair, and most of the time they just fall on their face, and the heart falls on the
Well, but
floor and gets covered in dirt, and
and then that's when, that's when you realize, okay, so if this person wants to continue, then they continue, and then eventually they develop craft,
Mhm.
right? Like, you don't stay, untrained for long because just
No.
the act of doing something makes you experienced, right? So then
Exactly. I was
they become
garbagey
trained.
dog shit when I started. 100%.
Oh, I have a hard time believing that. I really have a hard time believing
No.
that.
Rainbow, there's footage of me my very first time performing, and I was Jesus Christ Superstar, and my voice cracked in they filmed it 2 nights because it was from high school. They filmed it 2 times. My voice cracked in the same spot, so they couldn't edit around it.
Right.
So on the tape that everyone got sent home, and yeah, I couldn't act, I couldn't dance, I couldn't do anything, and it was but hilarious nonetheless. I definitely learn from mistakes. I've taken the hard road of education in this. I
Oh,
want to give you a chance to do a little fun thing that I do every show. It's called the red carpet. And it's a
okay.
chance for you to give a shout out to something that is inspiring you in the Indigenous community at the moment. It could be a person, it could be a show, it can be someone in your life, someone from afar. But who's really like getting your engine going right now, and you want to make sure that other people get a chance to check them out.
Oh, golly gosh, gee willikers. Um,
I'm not familiar with that.
well, I feel sorry for you because um, okay, let's see. So I'm gonna shout out, there's a woman that I recently met. So she's just an acquaintance. Her name is Laura Chilton, and she is uh Potawatomi, and maybe Pamunkey as well. So other Virginia nations. And she has just written a book called 1666, a novel.
1666.
1666, a novel, which sort of is for the first time putting down on paper, for public ears, the story of her ancestors and sort of what they endured during that time period in Virginia. Because up until now, It's basically the story and the history has only been just sort of recounted within the tribal community itself. But so she's put it down on paper, and it's basically the story of her ancestors when their village, their area was raided by white settlers, and basically every single man who was there in the village at the time was slaughtered, was killed. I don't know the exact number. And all of the women and children, a lot of them were also killed, but most of them were then rounded up and they were put on a boat and they were taken to Barbados and sold into slavery there. And then after so many years, there is a discrepancy whether it's 2 or 3. They're not sure. 2 or 3 women made it back from Barbados to the tribe, to Virginia, and was able to sort of restart the tribe. There were a couple of men as well who were out. They weren't in the village that night, and so a few people did survive back in Virginia, but then the 2 or 3 women made it back from Barbados, and it's kind of that story. And I think it sounds incredible. I'm inspired by her bravery to do the work and to put the story on paper, and with the blessing of the community, and to share this story and the amount of work she put in. And I also kind of love it because I wish I could remember the publishing company, but she said it's a relatively small new publishing company that she wanted to go with. And it's a publishing company that only publishes books by female writers over 50. And I thought that was
Oh,
also super cool. But
yeah, that's
so
very
shout
cool.
out to Laura Tilton and 1666, a novel which documents at least one story of a Virginia nation that probably a lot of people don't know.
Okay. I like that. That's the first, I think that's the first novel shout out that we've had. How novel. I am getting rolling eyes thrown at me right now for that stupid pun. Okay. Rainbow, Rainbow, it's always such a pleasure to see you and chat with you.
Likewise.
Dear listeners out there, lovely, lovely human, please go see any theater production that she's in. Go see any movie
I
that
have
she's
one
in,
coming.
and go see The River when it comes out too, or look it up,
Yes,
or
please
however
do.
we're gonna
And
find it.
I don't do socials, but I have a website and you can always find me somewhere on the interwebs, and if you email, I email back. So this is so short and I would love to continue this conversation.
I would love to. All right, we'll continue our conversation without the listeners. I'm sorry there, dear listeners out there, but I'm going to be taking this one off the air. So that's it from Actors and Ancestors Land, and I hope that this holiday season, whatever holiday is you're celebrating, finds you and all those that you love well. Till next time, Egose! Actors and Ancestors is created, hosted, and produced by me, Joel D. Moncrin, and audio editing and production support by Daniela Barreto. Please, if you love this show or are interested in listening to more, then go and check it out on actorsandancestors.com. Thanks to the Indigenous Screen Office for funding this show for our seasons here. And thanks to those of you that are out there that have actually bought me a coffee. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. The link for donations is on the website. All right, guys. Have a good one.